Hello everyone, it's me, Aaron, Professor Thorgy, your guide to all things geeky, and welcome to another episode of Comic Class, the show every single week on this channel where we just geek out about comic books. And this week, we're actually playing a little bit of catch-up. You see, not a lot really came out this week, but last week, a ton of books were released. So of course, that was the week that my stupid body decided to get sick with a stomach bug, so I didn't really have the strength to talk about any of those series that came out. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to go back and look at a few releases that came out last week that I really wanted to talk about, but just didn't get the opportunity to. That's right, today you are going to get 2 episodes of Comic Class in which I am just going to give you my thoughts on a couple things that came out. And in this episode, right here, first episode of the day, we are actually going to talk about the brand new Runaways series. Now, for anybody who doesn't know what the Runaways are, they were a series created for Marvel in the early 2000s by writer Brian K. Vaughan. And since then, Brian K. Vaughan has gone on to become a huge name in the world of indie comics. In fact, he is probably one of the biggest writers in the indie scene at the moment. He is actually the writer behind 2 Image series that are going on, Saga and Paper Girls, both of which are critically acclaimed, fans love them, and they win all kinds of awards. In other words, he's kind of a big deal. And this was that series that really got people to look at him and go, oh, you're going to one day be a big deal. So people love that series. They have been hoping for it to return. And here's the thing, it has returned numerous times. Ever since Brian K. Vaughan left, numerous other writers have come on and tried to restart that series, tried to get it going again, and just nobody had that Brian K. Vaughan touch. Like, even Joss Whedon, right after he did his amazing run over on Astonishing X-Men, he went on and went, you know what? Brian K. Vaughan did incredible stuff. I'm gonna get on there, grab that ball, carry it. It was, most people agreed it was okay. His work left things to be desired. In fact, in all honesty, I thought it was really just kind of boring, and I don't think he actually captured a lot of the magic that Brian K. Vaughan had on his run. But I do know other people out there who are okay with it, but I don't know anybody who loved his run on that series. However, after he left, they got other people on there, and it tried to take more of a, yeah, we're young, hip kids out there, we're just out there having fun, screw all you adults kind of vibe to it, and that's not the vibe that the Runaways was supposed to have. The Runaways was created to be a book for the misfits. It was a book created for all those kids out there who felt like the whole world was against them because it was about the children of supervillains. It was about these kids who had no idea that their parents were supervillains. One day they witnessed their parents murdering a child for some weird satanic ritual to give them unlimited power, and they're like, oh shoot, we have to stop them because no one is going to believe us. We can't go for help to anybody. They control everything this side of the country. It's just up to us, kids, to stop them. And they slowly discovered that they themselves had the powers of their parents. So it was a great series for the Runaways out there. It was a great series for all those kids out there who felt like, yeah man, sometimes the whole world is against you. Sometimes you don't know who you can turn to. Sometimes you do feel alone. It did kind of have a darker tone, and it feels like ever since Brian K. Vaughan left, nobody else really understood that about that series. They kept trying to give it that fun, young, hip tone to it, and that just wasn't what that book should have been. And the last writer to really tackle those characters on their own book was Catherine Monin, and honestly, I actually think she kind of nailed it. She only did about 3 or 4 issues on that series, and I was like, oh, this is it. Someone's giving them that darker tone again. Someone is giving them that outsider, that outcast tone to the book that was always supposed to have. This is the first time it's kind of felt like the Brian K. Vaughan stuff since Brian K. Vaughan left. Just hold on to this and you'll be okay. And then it was instantly canceled. Like, she came in when the die was already cast. That book was already getting canceled. Like, well, maybe you can save it. And it was too far gone. There was no way that book was turned around. And since then, people have been like, okay, but you know what a fan base this book has. You're gonna bring it back, right? And it just never came back after that. It was shocking that Marvel had constantly brought other properties back that suffered the same fate as Runaways, but Runaways, they just held on to. It was almost like they were going, we don't want to screw this up again. Every time we try and bring it back, we tamper with this great thing that people had a little bit more, and eventually we're just going to tamper with it too much. we're going to screw it up too many times, and it will no longer be that great thing that everybody remembers. We'll have destroyed their childhood, basically, and they didn't want to mess with that. So they just held on to it, waiting for the right opportunity. Granted, they did have these characters start popping up in other books, and they did really messed up stuff to them in those other books, such as in Avengers Arena, where 2 of the characters popped up to basically be part of a battle royale style fight with other teenage superheroes. It was really messed up. But that is for another episode that I will never ever do. This is about the new Runaways series, because as I said, people have been waiting for this book to finally come back, and now it's finally here. It has finally freaking returned. So the big question on everybody's mind was, okay, are they actually going to be able to recapture that magic that the original Runaways series had? I honestly think they have. We're only 1 issue in there. But so far, this is the best restart to the Runaways series that I have seen since the actual start of the Runaways series. This new Runaways series is by Rainbow Rowell, and this is the first comic she has ever written. Before this, she only wrote young adult novels, and Marvel has been recruiting a lot of writers from young adult novels recently, and some of them have worked, some of them haven't, which in all fairness is how you could describe every writer in comic book history ever. Some of them work, some of them don't. But yeah, there's been like a very clear split of, oh, that was a good pick, that one was not a very good pick. So whenever I hear that they're getting a new young adult novel, a young adult writer to come on to Marvel, I'm always like, okay, it's gonna go 50-50 on this, which one's it gonna be? She is on the positive side. And also, they put her on a book that should have a young adult author working on that series. As I said, the Runaways is all about feeling like an outcast, feeling like no one understood you. That's what 90% of young adult novels are these days. Instantly, the moment you start reading this book, it has that feeling of, my life has turned to crap, which is kind of what was always happening to the Runaways, but the one thing that always tied them together was each other. It was their friendship. I keep talking about the Runaways like it was all about being a loner, but it was a group of loners who had found each other. Their own family was evil, so they had to abandon that family, and they found a family within each other. And I love that this issue starts off with Nico, who was kind of the leader of the team. It's hard to say who really was a leader on that team. They didn't really establish rules or anything like that, but she was basically the leader. But now she's in an apartment, she's cooking ramen noodles for herself. She really has no friends or anyone to hang out with. She's thinking about her life, about everyone that she's ever worked with, and thinking, yeah, they're not here anymore. It's just me by myself. And I kind of dug that. It instantly established that loner outcast feeling, that feeling of, oh, woe is me, I don't have anyone to turn to right now. And then her friend Chase comes bursting in there with the time machine holding the dead body of their friend Gert. Now, for anybody who has never read any of the Runaways books up until now, I can understand you having problems with this series, because this is not the most new reader-friendly take on the Runaways. But in a way, I have to applaud that, because so many other Marvel books, when they start back up at number 1, they have to go, well, we know we had all these dangling storylines out there, and we know we had all these readers who've been reading this book forever, but we have to appeal to the new readers. So we have to simplify this, we have to not rely on any of the past storylines, just start fresh. And honestly, I understand that. There's new readers coming into the store every single day, all across America. You gotta give them jumping on points. You gotta give them spots where they can start. However, as I said, they have created many new jumping on points for the Runaways over the years, and none of them captured what made the original Runaways so special. So I actually think that this was a smart move to turn to those old Runaways fans and go, yeah, we know what you cared about. We know the storylines you were following. Bam, starting right from there. Honestly, you can end on the Brian K. Vaughan run on this book, skip all those other relaunches they did, and go straight into this first issue. And as I said, when that's the fan base you're trying to grab, I honestly think it was kind of a smart move. But yes, for anybody who had not been reading the Runaways and you're just going straight into this and you're wondering what the heck happened, they had a member of their team who was the daughter of time travelers and actually had a velociraptor pet who she had a psychic link to, and she died in an issue, passed the psychic link on to her boyfriend Chase, who was the son of mad scientist, And now he, over the past couple of years, has just been living in the pain of knowing that maybe he could have prevented it, maybe he could have done something. So he has now repaired one of her family's old time machines, went back in time, grabbed her the moment that she got injured, brought her here to the present, and brought her over to Nico, who was a magician who had the power, I guess I should say witch. Magician makes it sound like she does illusions. She's a spellcaster. He takes her over to the spellcaster Nico and says, here, maybe we have time now. Maybe you can do something. But here's Nico's problem. Nico has a magic staff that allows her to cast spells that can do almost anything, but she can only cast each spell once. Any word that she tells the staff to do, it will do, but she can't use that word again. So, it's her trying to now desperately heal her friend in the seconds before she dies, but she's going through the whole Rolodex in her head of, no, I've used that word, I've used that word, I've used that word. Tries to use this word, nope, already used it. Now some big mishap is happening, because anytime that she uses a word that she's already used before, the staff just kind of goes nuts. It creates frogs just everywhere, or it creates a rain cloud in your apartment. So she's going through this, and they just ask for a doctor. So the staff brings in a doctor, but not someone who is qualified to take care of someone who just got like a major artery taken out. So it's this doctor with these strangers desperately trying to save this person's life who she just found here in this apartment. She doesn't know why she's here in this apartment. She's just instantly there. I know that doctor will never return in this series. I kind of want her to return because I kind of feel like she would be a great avatar for the new readers out there. Because she, just like the new readers, is just thrown right into the middle of this thing, and she probably has numerous questions about it. But in the end, they're able to work quick enough, and they actually are able to save Gert's life. But at the very end, there's kind of a little teaser. You see some shadowy figure watching all this happen, and just going, oh, Chase, no. And then you see they have a cat on their lap, and the cat has glowing purple eyes. My theory is that since Gert is a time traveler, or at least the daughter of time travelers, and she had a psychic link to her pet, maybe this is future Gert, who can now create psychic links with other animals, coming back in time and looking at what they did and going, yeah, you messed with the timeline too much. So after this one issue, I do kind of have a problem that we didn't see the other two members of this team. It feels like almost half the team wasn't present for this first issue, but it was a very tense issue. It did some really big stuff. It did pick up right from where the Brian K. Vaughan stuff left off, because they did acknowledge that's what we need to go back to. The tone of this book is exactly what the tone of the old series was, so they understand that and they're capturing it very well. And also, one other thing they did that I really enjoyed, for anybody who hasn't been watching this channel on the weekends, over the past couple weeks, I've been doing this little experiment where I said, hey, what would I do if I relaunched Marvel Comics? And basically, I listed off all the books that I would relaunch, and I give you my little pitch on them. And not to spoil the episode that is coming up this weekend, but the Runaways is going to be on that list. And what I wrote down and what I recorded and what I want them to do is I said, you know what, you need to go back to that darker tone, that more angsty tone, that more feeling of an outsider, which this book has done. But I also said, you also need to age these characters up. One of the things I always enjoyed about Marvel is that the characters did actually grow. They did actually age. Granted, it goes at a very slow pace, and it feels almost like every single year they slow it down even more, but the characters do progress and we do get to watch them grow. I always love seeing that happen. However, the Runaways kind of just stopped as soon as the Brian K. Vaughan run was up. Like, every single time those characters popped up since then, they've been like the exact same age. And there's one member of the team, Molly, who was always the young, perky kid. And I can't help it, but I keep looking at her like, alright, based on how time moves in the Marvel Universe, roughly 4 of our years is equal to 1 of yours. You're not the plucky young kid anymore. Like, you should really start acting a little bit more, not adultish, but not like a little child anymore. So I do think that these characters need to start being aged forward, and I think it would create for some really interesting stories, because these were kids who looked at adults and said, adults can't be trusted, we can only trust each other because all the adults are wrong, all the adults are evil. And now they're actually kind of going, oh, we're actually kind of becoming adults. We're actually slowly starting to turn into the people who we always thought were evil. I thought you could create a great story with that, and granted, it doesn't really cover that much in here. However, page 1, when you see Nico living by herself and struggling to cook dinner for herself, it made me go, oh shoot, she's older. They actually are aging these characters up. That's actually exactly what I wanted them to do. So I'm gonna have to go and re-record everything that I said about the Runaways for the episode that I have coming up this weekend, because Marvel, you kind of did it. You kind of beat me to the punch. You're doing with them exactly what I wanted you to do with them. We're going to get to actually watch these characters as they age and grow and progress, and you're going back to that tone that I always enjoyed, and you start this first issue off with a massive change that really does make me wonder what the heck is going to happen. My only real complaint is, yeah, it isn't the most new reader friendly, but in all honesty, there are so many other new reader friendly books out there. If you pick this up and you're like, I don't understand what's going on, but I'm intrigued, go back and read the old Runaways stuff. It's great, you'll love it, it's wonderful. But my other little small complaint is I would have liked to have seen at least a little bit of the other 2 characters who are going to be in this book. That's really it. Aside from that, this is one of the strongest issue number 1s that I've read from Marvel in a long time. So, if you were a Runaways fan and you have been wondering, is this book going to be the one that brings back that team that I love? Listen, I can't speak for everybody out there, but for me, it absolutely was. So, if you are a Runaways fan, I absolutely recommend it. And if you are not a Runaways fan because you have never picked those books up, damn man, there is not a better time to pick those books up. I mean, the TV show is coming out in just a couple months. Get on that, man. But okay, that is it for today's first episode of Comic Class. Like I said, there is another episode coming up later because there is another new series that I have been wanting to talk about for a couple months now. I just haven't had the opportunity to, but you know what? It's a catch-up week, so I am gonna cover it. So if you want to see that, make sure you come back later today. Make sure you click that subscribe button. And if you also like this episode, make sure you give us a thumb up. It actually really helps this channel grow. And let me know what you thought about this issue. If you are a Runaways fan, like I said, I don't want to speak for everybody out there, but I really do feel like Runaways fans are going to enjoy this. So let me know in the comments down below what you thought. Also, you can always follow me on Twitter and Tumblr at Professor Thorgy. Thanks for coming by, everyone. Come back next time. Bye.